So with your website area, so there's two different sections. So you've got website pages and landing pages. So what website pages are, Kajabi creates a website for you with standard pages that are like, everyone needs these pages. So it sort of creates like a starting point. However, personally, I don't use the website pages. I use individual landing pages and link them together. That is completely personal preference. The main difference is that your website pages all share the same settings. So anything under your website area will have the same header, the same footer. If you use pop-ups, all the settings part of it, like, fonts and everything, that's all under, there's only one place. You can't have a home page different to a blog page or something. It's all the same. Whereas if you want to have that individual level of control, then you can create landing pages and you just create a navigation menu to link them together rather than using the standard one that Kajabi creates. So if you did, like Victoria wants to create a landing page or a sales page, you can come into landing pages, and if you have a template you've purchased from someone else, you upload it here. If you want to use one of Kajabi's templates or start from scratch, you come into new landing page, and so you can start from scratch here. They've just added this lead generation page creator, which just helps with some AI content creation if you're like, I don't even know what to put on the page. Or you can take the copy prompts off here. So that's kind of helpful, but this one is more for an opt-in page for like a freebie or something, whereas these are sales pages in here are helpful. But if you're like, I just want to play around with Kajabi and start from nothing, then you can certainly do this blank page and add sections in. But these sales pages can be a great place to start if you just want to play around. There is unlimited pages in Kajabi. One of the things that I found really helpful when learning Kajabi and learning how to make things look a certain way is go in and just do one of each of these pages. Call it like test evolve, test flawless, test Luca, because you don't have a limit. And then you can go and see, like for example, on this page here, you might be like, oh, how do I get this so that I've got, this image like lined up next to the text box, and I've got this kind of square, like how do I actually achieve that? And how do I get my boxes so that they've got a line around the outside? So if you go and do all of these pages and put them into your account, then you can actually go through the settings of these pages and see how they've done it. And I'll show you what I mean in a sec in terms of the settings, but all of the pages are set up with quite different. You might be like, oh, how do I get these round, social media icons in my header? And you can go and see how it's done on the template. Or you might be in this section and be like, oh, how do I get these white boxes with this color in the background? You may not want this exact layout, but you might want something similar. And so you can learn from what they've done on the templates. Another example is this one here, like where you've got these triangle sections and you've got these, big thick boxes, and you've got like little text and then these bigger colored text sections. And how you can do that is you can go and actually load these pages, and they won't be pages that you'll necessarily use, but they can just be things that you refer to. Same with this one here, like you can sort of see how they're setting things up. So they've got these like blocks around the images, and you've got that same thing where you've got an image and a color next to it. It just helps give you some guidance on things that you can do in Kajabi, and as these are all free, it's really helpful. Similar thing here where you've got this image that's going over into another section, but yeah, you've got all of these pages. There's lots and lots of examples, so certainly go and spend a little bit of time, Stephanie, not too much time playing around with these, but yeah, like there's features on these pages which you're like, oh, that's really cool, I really like that. And going in and actually just putting these pages, you can be like, okay, like this here, like where they've got this line with the box. When you actually go into it and you're like, cool, that's how they did it, then you can see how you can use that functionality on your own page, even if you're not using this actual template. It just helps you learn about some of the different design aspects that are available on Kajabi. And you can also do the same with your website. You can load up as many of the website design areas. So and then to use one of these, you just click on it and just go get started, give it a title and create, and it will load it into your landing page area. And then in the website, because landing pages and website are two separate things. I talk about website as a website is like the US or Australia, where the website is the country and then the pages within are the states, whereas the landing pages are like completely separate individual countries that aren't connected to anything else. So they sort of, where states will share some rules, but they can be, done on their own. Whereas independent countries, you can do anything you want with that page and it won't affect another page. Whereas the design elements of the website, will have a bit of crossover. But within here, you've also got more templates for your website area templates. So again, it can just be another fun way to, you can go and put as many of these on as you want. And see like, oh, how do I get that box where it's, going up into that header where you've got that overlap, like stuff like that. So if you see a feature and you're like, oh, I want to discover how to do it, just load that template up. And like I said, there's no limit. You can put as many as you want in. And then with your website to actually change between the different templates so that you can play around and discover it. You've only got one live template, but you can have as many other ones as you want, and you can come into it and customize, and then that will take you into this into the template. This is one of our paid templates that we offer, but it'll take you in. You can sort of see, you can be like, all right, and you can play around with that even though it's not live. So that's why I say, load them up, have a play around and see some of the different features and functionality that are available. Now, when I was talking, I'll just do it in here because it's exactly the same. So your website pages in terms of the design elements and the sections on the page are exactly, the website and the landing pages are the same. The only difference is that, like I said, the settings, all of these settings are for your entire website, whereas the settings when you go into this on your landing pages are just for that one specific page. So with your sections, if you wanted to add different sections, so say you go and get one of the templates and you want to, I don't know, add another one of these sections and put it maybe further down the page and change it around. We can go in here and be like, all right, this is the Hey Girl section because it's named. You can rename any of these sections, and you can also duplicate the section. So say we want to duplicate it, it's going to then put it down to the bottom, and you can then move it to where you want. So you can move it up or down the page wherever you want, and then you can go in there and change this. You might be like, all right, well, I want to have another section that looks like that, but I'm going to move it around a little bit. And you can update, the text in here. Now, where I was saying about if you're like, oh, how do I get this thing where it looks like there's a box and it's kind of, almost transparent, but not quite. That's where you can come into all of the settings of these templates when you have a look at them. You can come into see how the call to action button, whether that's included. You can go through in the settings and you can go, all right, well, that's solid. This one is actually set, the border radius of this is actually 50, but it's set for this one under the settings of the page. So if you see it blank, if you see anything blank, like you can, some of these things, make them like site-wide settings and then individually update them. So even if you have a site-wide settings, you can still like override that on an individual level and, change colors and things like that. But there will be like a standard setting. You can go into, there's not really a lot that you can do in there, but the background, this is where you can change things like add a border. And there's different types of borders. You can change the width of the border, the color of the border, the radius of the border, a shadow. So this one, you can see it has a large shadow. So if we had that to none, which is probably the default, it's going to change how that looks, and it's not going to look like it's in a box. So that's where it can be a little bit, faffy around. And this is where when you have someone who is a Kajabi nerd, you can be like, Sue, how does this page in Kajabi have that look? And I can be like, yes, you go to this setting here, because this is a little bit tricky it's probably the trickiest part of the design aspect is learning all of these things. But yeah, like when you have those templates as a reference, it will always be somewhere in here. And then you've got your things like alignment in here. Say that we had this, we didn't want these side by side, you wanted this to be underneath, then you can come in here, for example, and click place this block on its own row, and it's going to push the other thing down instead of just being off the width. But I won't go into everything, but just, bear in mind, if you want to see how something's done and you see it on a Kajabi template, load it up into your site. There's no limit, and go into these settings, or just be like, yeah, like I said, Sue, I want to do this. How can I do that? And, you can do different things with, animations. Also make sure to check your mobile layout to make sure things, sometimes you'll set it up and it'll look amazing on desktop, and it might be that you need to also update it on mobile. Sometimes you might forget to, add a bit of space around on mobile. And also the last thing that I'll just when you are doing any landing page or design, especially if you're new in Kajabi, there's two different lots of settings. There is the section settings, which is like this entire section. You'll notice when I hover around it, it's got the blue arrows, and then within the section are the blocks. So there's block settings, which says block settings, and there's section settings. So the section settings are things like the background image, like to get this gradient here, this is an actual graphic image, and that's loaded up, and it's set to be an image background. Then you have layout settings for the padding, which is how much space is around each section. And sometimes that's how Kajabi achieves, some of those design elements achieve things, as with padding, and also negative spacing as well. Sometimes when you've got those overlapping blocks, it's negative spacing on the top or the bottom, and these different alignment sections. So that's where, if you have that page to refer to, like often I'll have two open. I'll have the page I'm working on, and then I'll have like my reference page, and I'll flick between. I'll be like, I'm trying to do this on this section and mine's not working. So I can then go back to that, template that I saw and look at it and be like, all right, I'm going to go through every one of these sections, and I'm going to find the one thing that's making it different. And you'll often find it's like one little checkbox or something. But that's where, just bear in mind, you have the section settings and the block settings when you are trying to copy things from other pages. But there is definitely a lot that you can do, and you can also do extra CSS code or HTML code if you're particularly fancy. But to get things like these blocks going up into that section above, that these are set to have that negative spacing, so they kind of float over the section. And there's, there is lots of stuff that you can do with Kajabi. This little bit of underline here, this is actually a bit of code. So yeah, if you know code, you're golden. I'm good at copying code and following instructions, but certainly not a coding expert. But you don't have to be, like, that's only if you want to go the extra mile. Start simple, always start simple, and add the fancy stuff later.